Alright then folks, we are back and we are kicking it off with that good energy because we have got a lot to do in this video, man. We are making a start finally on doing the tube chassis front end of this thing. Obviously in the last few videos we have been doing all the back end and that has come out pretty sweet. But now it's time for the front, and I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to seeing this thing all tubed out in the front here. Now, I have been moving house, so apologies for the lack of videos. It's just been an absolute mare, as you'd expect. But in between times, I have managed to squeeze in the odd hour or so here and there. And in that time, I've managed to get the jig fitted to the table. So that is all now squared off to the table and to the car. And we are all nice and level. We are ready to go. And also in between times, I have also been sorting out some parts that we need to be able to crack on with this. So what we have here is the little hoard of parts. Now we'll start off with this. Well, there's 4 of these, so these have all been machined to basically sit inside the lollipop mounts, because on an E36 you have a couple of bits protruding out of the chassis which then locate these lollipop mounts. So I've got 4 of these things that we need to incorporate into the tube chassis somehow. And we've also got the appropriate bolts to go with them, and then we've got these things. Now this is one that I made, and believe it or not, this took me an entire evening because I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing on a lathe. So needless to say, that wasn't ideal, so I've ended up farming that job out, and we've now got 4 that are perfectly identical to one another and ready to go. So what we've got one with a flat, well, we've got 2 with a flat bottom and then 2 with a concave, because if I go over here on the E36 subframe, as you can see, this back point here is tapered and then the front one is just flat. So we've got a flat one to go on the flat, and then we've got a tapered one to go on there, and that basically locates the front subframe. So these will then be passing through my tube chassis like so, obviously through it. So that will go on there like that, welded top and bottom, and then we've got a couple of monster bolts which will go through that, through the subframe, and bolt everything together. And then these will be welded to something, but I'll show you that when the time comes, because I don't think it will make sense telling you about it now. And then I've got to say a big thanks to Chris at CT Fabrications for making me these. So he's laser cut 2 top plates and then rolled 2 big 6-inch circles, which are going to be the basis for my front suspension strut tops. So he already started tacking this one together, but I told him hold off doing that, I'll weld it all up, that's not a problem. So yeah, we need to finish welding that one off, we need to tack and then weld that one, and then basically we can then go ahead and fire these into the car and make a start on our tube chassis, because the way I see it, that is going to form the basis for all the tube work. So we need to come off the back here over to the A-post bars, drop down to the chassis legs which are going to be passing through here, and yeah, just tie it all into the tube chassis. And then eventually I will also tie these into the structure of the car as well. So all in all, we've got, as far as I'm aware, all the parts we need to be able to crack on with this. I've also got to say a huge shout out to Tube Bender UK, because once again they've sorted me out a blinding price on some more roll cage tubing to actually go ahead and be able to do all of that. So I will put something on the screen that shows you what they do. But please, 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 if you need any roll cage tubing or any pre-bent bits of tube or anything like that, go on their website and go and get them from them, because them guys are absolutely top notch. But that being said, I think it's enough talking. We need to get the old TIG welder out and start welding these up.
I didn't mean what I told you, but you took it to heart. Wish I could take it back to get a new start. I apologize at least 100 times. You never heard my perspective or took my advice. But I put all the problems in a pot, then I stirred. I said what I said, what I did was a blur. And it's just a bad habit, maybe it's just a curse. Now our friendship's on do not disturb. I'll throw fuel on the fire, burn the bridge to the ground. You're no longer required. I don't want to see you around. I tried to fix what was broken, but you made up your mind. I gave you all my reasons, then you pushed them aside. Guess it wasn't enough. When it rains, it floods. Left me drowning here neck deep, dragged me through the mud. You act like I stabbed a knife in you. I cut so deep, I went all the way through. If you guess like me, then I'm a fool. No more drama now, no more shots to shoot. I'll throw fuel on the fire, burn the bridge to the ground. You're no longer required. I don't wanna see you around. I'll throw fuel on the fire, burn the bridge to the ground. You're no longer required. I don't wanna see you around. Oh my God, I said my piece. So tonight I'ma sleep like a baby. 'Cause no one cares what you think of me. Come and think of it now, it's all buried. I'll throw fuel on the fire, burn the bridge to the ground. You're no longer required. I don't wanna see you around.
Top mounts are all done then, folks, and they have come out pretty decent, if I don't mind saying so myself. So they are fully welded, penetrated through to the back, so they're nice and solid. I will be sanding off all of the welds just to try and give that a nice smooth radius over the edge there, but I'll do that off camera. I won't need to bore you with that. But in between times, whilst that's been cooling down because they were piping hot, I've been playing around with a bit of scrap to try and sort of give myself an idea of where I'm going with all of this, and this is what I've come up with. So these are 2 bits of scrap I had. I just wanted to make sure that I could get a bend there and a bend there, and it fit in my tube bender without just wasting a whole length of tube first. So thankfully I can get both those bends in tight like that on my tube bender, so we're golden. Now this bend is going to be back here to clear the lollipop mount, because then I can triangulate all of that in, get those bolts in that I showed you previously, which locate this, and then all will be good on that front. And then because I've got the bends where I've put them, it clears these standoffs. So that is all working out pretty bleeding splendid, to be honest. So like I say, that is the rough idea of what I've got going on at the moment. Needless to say, this tube won't be sitting crooked. It will be straight like so. But once these top mounts are in and I've bent up those 2 bits of tube, I'm going to brace from the top mount down to that tube, as well as obviously putting it into the roll cage. So hopefully everything will be nice and solid, everything will be supported, and we'll be on to a winner. So with that being said, I'm going to put the camera down for a minute. I'm going to start cleaning up these top mounts and make them look a bit more pretty than they currently do, and I'll pick you guys back up when we're ready to get them back in the car. Sad day, boys. End of an era. She's gone. It's a sad day, people. As you would have seen, the van has gone. Unfortunately, I had to sacrifice the van. We have now moved in with the mother-in-law until our house purchase hopefully goes through, fingers crossed. But it was either sacrifice one of the car projects to get the van in here, or just admit defeat with the van and just sell the van. So that is the option we opted for, and yeah, a little bit sad about it, to be honest. I've had that van since my son was born, so yeah, sad times. But you've got to make some sacrifices here and there, and now, with that being said, we should have a bit of spare time finally, a month later since the last clip, he says, to actually get on with this thing. Now, I've completely forgot where we was at with the video, admittedly, so I've just had to look back through my clips. Turns out we didn't get very far into the video, because all we've done is made these things. But these are now fully smoothed off and painted in weld through primer. So what we need to do is get these bolted into the car, because what I'd like to do next is actually do those two chassis rail pieces, get them bent up, get them put into the car, and then I can start running my tube work off of them, pick up on the strut top mounts, and hopefully get going with this video finally. Like I say, now we're moved into the mother-in-law's, I've actually got a bit of time spare, so hopefully I'll be able to get down here most evenings again, but we shall see. So let's put you on a tripod, let's get these things bolted in, and then move on to the chassis rails. Right, and we have some strut tops. Driver's side and passenger side are done. And as I say, next up is going to be making that bit of chassis rail. But like I say, I made that out of two offcuts of tube. I did measure the bends that I put on it. So we need a 36-degree bend on the lower part and then a 33-degree bend on the upper part. I've got an overall measurement of 1150. Which is quite scary, because if I screw this up in a minute, that's a long bit of tube that I've messed up. So fingers crossed we won't do that. 165 from my perimeter boxing to the first bend. So that is so it bends up here, and then I can triangulate all of this for the lollipop mount. And then, yeah, 100mm in between the two bends. And then 33 degrees for the last bend up and over the subframe. So I've got my first bit of tube cut. We are ready to go. Let's chuck that in the tube bender, and hopefully this thing doesn't screw me over this time, because we've not had much good luck with this thing. Let's see what happens, eh? Right, let's go for the first one. We'll go for the shorter one first, 165. Let's do this and hope we don't screw this up, boys. God damn, I'm nervous. 160, in fact, let's go 170 just to give ourselves 5mm tolerance on that. Let's see how this works. Oh. Right, so, zero it off. Right, there we go, bang on 36. So with these things, you have something called spring back. So you always have to overdo your bend, but you have to be careful, because if you overdo it too much, it won't spring back to where you want it. So on this tube bender, with this tube, I get about 2 degrees of spring back. So I've had to bend that to just a hair over 38 degrees, and then it will spring back to 36. So let's flip this round, put the measurement I need on it, and then we'll bend the 33 degrees, and hopefully that is our first chassis rail done. And that is our 33 degrees there then, folks. Now, like I say, I've got 2 degrees of spring back on this, so I've bent that to 35 and then it's sprung back to the 33. So in theory, I've done this to my measurements on my pad, so this should fit in the car. Fingers crossed. However, I want to dive back a couple of months to when I got this thing. So if you've been watching my videos for a while, you'll know that this tube bend has been a bit of a pain in my arse. And I've done various things to try and make it work. The first few bends I've done, it absolutely destroyed the tube. Now, I think I've finally figured out what it is. Now when you put your tube in, you put this clamp around, as you would have seen, put the pin through it to hold that clamp in, and then you do this bolt up on the back here, which goes right the way through, pinches on the back of the tube and holds everything secure, or at least should do. Now what I've realised is after the very first little bit of bend, that little bolt becomes loose. Now I didn't notice that beforehand, so I don't know if that's played a big part in why it's been messing me about, but since I have noticed that, after the very first bend, as you would have seen, I'll then go back and retighten that. And I don't seem to have had any further issues with this thing since doing that. So hopefully that is the end of the issues with this tube bender, because that was really starting to get on my nerves. Anyway, I can't really put this off any longer. Let's get this tube out and see if it'll fit in the car. Yeah, we are looking good, folks. Look at that. Happy days. Let's go around this side, show you this side. Now I do need to cut this bit down here because I want that bend back here to try and triangulate all of this area to then make the lollipop mount fit better. Overall, dead happy with that. I've got enough room to cut that down because I've overcompensated a little bit on the end there. And then this little bit of angle iron here is just to simulate basically that space there, so I know what distance I needed off of my jig. So all in all, happy days. So let's get another one of those bent up, and to save you watching me do all of that faff again, let's go for a bit of YouTube magic and go for a 3, 2, 1, and then there were 2. Absolutely made up with that. Look at that. More importantly, I'm made up that I didn't screw that up, because that would have been a lot of wasted tube right there, folks. Oh my god, it's so nice to have actually made some progress on this damn thing. It's taken so long to get back down there. I have made this side the same as that side, so again I need to cut this tube down a little bit to get this bend back a little ways. This section that runs across here, however, I've made a little bit shorter, because as you can see over there, from that point there to that point there is just wasted tube. So I've cut this one down a little bit, not a great deal, still going to have a little bit of a waste there. But this will eventually get tied into the front of the chassis somehow. Again, I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that yet. Whether I box down to it or something, I don't know. But that is neither here or there for the minute. The main thing, the main priority is getting these cut down to where I need them and attached to the car. Get some sort of tube work or something from the strut top down to the chassis leg, and then join the strut top into the chassis, and then hopefully all of this is all nice and solid, and then I hopefully can lose the jig, get my subframe in and work out where the engine's going, so I can then make my tubular structure off the top of the strut tops over to the dash bar, which is just there. So yeah, rather than me putting you on a tripod whilst I scratch my head and work out where I need these tubes to be, I'm going to put you down for a little bit, and I'll pick you guys back up when we're ready to get on with the next bit. We've got chassis rails. Look at that. I am made up with that. Absolutely ideal. Looking damn good. Now, I didn't really know how to go about getting my holes drilled for this, so I've just used a 12mm hole through the holes in my jig to kind of mark the bottom of that, and then just sent it out of the car, as you would have seen. So that actually worked out pretty well, to be fair. But these are now fully made into the car. They're welded to the structure inside. My spacer doodads for the subframe are welded to the tube. Everything is clamped down. Ignore the spacer plates, they're just to get over a shoulder on the bolt, so I could actually clamp it all up with a nut. But all in all, made up with that, they are looking damn good. Happy days. But apologies if the last few clips were a bit here and there. I actually kept forgetting to charge my batteries up like an absolute wally. But now we have fully charged batteries and we are ready to go, which brings us to the next step, which is going to be linking up the strut tops to the cage somehow, some way. I've had a couple of thoughts about this, and I've tried looking around online to get inspiration from other builds and whatnot, but there's not really a great deal of tube chassis cars online that aren't just drag cars, which are completely different. They don't run suspension like this, so most of what I've seen has kind of been useless to me, really. So I'm just going to make it up as I go, as I usually do, and see what happens. So my first idea is coming off the back of the strut top and shoot over to the A-post where the dash bar intersects it. So that would be one straight tube there, and then out of the front we'll come across, little bend down, and then go down to the chassis rail there, and then we can tie in all of this front end part of the car into that at a later date. Now, I don't know if that's going to look any good, so I have got an option B, and that is shoot it down there, because now everything's kind of in place. I think we might actually be able to sneak a tube in underneath my bonnet hinge without affecting those bolts that release the bonnet hinge from the car. So that might be an option, but that's a lot of tube to experiment with. So I'm going to experiment with the shorter bit first. If I think that looks crap, then we're going to go for option B and shoot a pipe down here. It will come down, bend down, and then go to the chassis rail down there, and then we can link all of this structure into it later on. So let's try option A. Let's get some cutting gear out, cut some tube up to suit that, and see what happens. Right, this is where we're at, folks. Just paused what I was doing just to get an eyeball on it and see how it's looking, and I think it's safe to say we're probably all in agreement that looks terrible. That does not look remotely good. Even if I do get that tube so it sits dead on the center of this strut tower, it's just out of place. It just looks weird. Even if I moved it to the side so it's more of a straight shot, I still think it's going to look out of place and strange. So yeah, option A was not the one. Let's get that bit out of the way, chuck that in the scrap bin, and move on to option B. So let's get another bit of tube, chuck it in the tube ender, and hopefully we're on to a winner with option B. We have a winner. Option B is a go. This is just a bit of scrap at the moment, just to sort of get an eyeball on it. But that just looks, to me, so much cleaner. This bend won't have so much of a radius on it, and I will start it from about there and have more of a rake coming down. But all in all, man, it just looks like it's meant to be. It hugs up against this inner wing rail area, whatever you want to call that, so I can stitch weld it across there. That will support all of the front end of the car. I can make some sort of bracing off of the strut top to the tube. It goes to the structure of the roll cage. It misses my bonnet hinge. All in all, I think that is a winner. Option B, eh? Who would have thought it? Right, let's get a couple of bits of tube cut, get a couple of bits of tube bent on that thing, and then we'll sling them in the car. yeah, boys, how do you like that for some progress then? That is both these front forward tubes now done and welded in for the most part, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, kudos to anyone that does all of this roll cagey stuff on a daily basis. Coming from someone that's only just recently started doing all of this, I am truly jealous of how effortless you make that look, because I really genuinely struggle trying to figure out some of these notches and the funny angles that you need to get them all notched in at. So yeah, if you've got any tricks and tips you want to share, please do drop them in the comment section, because I'm honestly keen to hear them. Anything to make my life easier, I'm all about it. So this side weren't actually too bad because I only had to work to my imagination, but this side was actually quite a challenge. Trying to get that one to actually be a mirror image of that one, that was a struggle, but we got there in the end. Now, those of you that do this on a daily basis have probably already noticed that I've given myself a bit of a future Terry problem here, and I can't weld down this side of the tube. I can't get in from the top, and I can't get in through this way, and I can't get up from the bottom because my welding torch simply will not fit, which I think leaves me with the only option now of hole sawing my A-post here and going in through that way and then welding my A-post back up after the fact. So yeah, like I say, future Terry problems, but I'm gonna have a ponder over that and try and figure something out, unless you guys have got any bright ideas on how the hell I'm gonna get over that issue on that side and that side. But that's all I can come up with at the moment. I think John's done that on a couple of cars over there actually, so yeah, I think that might be the go-to on that one. So now the next step is gonna be securing the strut tops to the tube. I think the best course of action for that is to bust out some CAD and try and design something that's going to link this to this and look semi-reasonable. At the minute, I'm thinking follow that contour and then drop back to the tube and just have one big old plate there that'll secure that, and then I'll do another one on the bottom at a later date when I flip the car back over. Obviously this will be getting tied in with tube work back here, there and everywhere anyway, so I just want to secure that to that for the moment so we can actually move forward with some other things. So let's bust out some cardboard and start designing something for that. We've got a design, folks, we've got a design. I didn't want to bore you just standing there cutting out cardboard, so I've skipped over that and just gone to what I think is the best design I've come up with so far. So this is going to be the one that tucks in there, so that'll be nice and straight down. That one tucks back there, so that is nice and straight down, and yeah, I think that is going to be the best scenario for that. I just need to work out now if I'm going to do that in normal sort of 1mm thick sheet metal, or if I should do 3mm. I mean, it is quite a key structural point that there's going to be a lot of load coming up through here, so do you know what? I've just made an executive decision. We are going to cut that out of 3mm plate and we are going to weld that in. So let's get this over to the bench. Let's start cutting out some 3mm plate. We got there in the end, folks. We finally got what is now going to form the support to my strut tops. And I'll be honest with you, I envy anyone that's got one of those plasma cutting tables, because that was definitely a bit of work, cutting all of that out and then making all of those curvatures in it. But the idea now is I've got my driver's side and my passenger side. I want to TIG weld these pieces to the side of the main one. So TIG that seam, and then ideally, if I can fit my torch in there, I want to TIG weld this to the strut top, and then TIG weld these to the front tubes that we've just recently put in. However, I'm not entirely sure if my TIG torch is going to be able to fit in there and actually do that. So we shall play that one by ear and see what happens on that front. But I need to give a little shout out to my recent little purchase. This thing, little straight die grinder, is an absolute weapon of a tool. This thing has been invaluable for carving out those curves in these pieces here. What a tool that is. Nice little carbide burr on the end. Hands down, one of my best tools to date. So if you want one of them, I'm going to leave a link in the description. Highly recommend you get one, because they are brilliant. Right, anyway, let's stop talking, get all this lot popped in the car and start welding it in. Buddy, it took a minute, but we got there in the end, and it didn't turn out too badly at all. Pretty happy with how they've come out, to be fair. What I did notice though is that I welded this one with a 5 cup, because the last thing I'd done with the TIG welder was weld alley, and you don't need that much gas coverage with that. But this side I actually used a 12 cup, so I've got quite a bit more gas coverage, which has actually come out quite a bit better. So yeah, overall very, very happy with how they've come out. Obviously they're no show winning welds. I'm not a professional welder, so whatever. That is all now fully supported though, so that is absolutely brilliant. Next thing is going to be making up some lollipop mounting structure down here. I don't quite know what to do with that as yet, But I think the best thing to do is get some cardboard out, start playing around with some cardboard and see what we come up with. And yeah, once that's done, we can actually lose the jig and hopefully get the subframe back in this thing. Let's go and get some cardboard. We've made it out the back of our little CAD program we had going on there, and that is what I've come up with. I didn't really have any real direction on where I wanted to go with that. I was just kind of laying cardboard in and seeing what worked and what didn't. And I'll be the first to admit, it doesn't look pretty. It does stick out like a sore thumb, but at this point, I'm not after looks. I just want to make absolutely sure my front wheel doesn't end up wobbling all over the place because this structure's all broken apart. So this is what we're going with. Now I've done it like this, 1, because it supports that bend, 2, because it picks up the lollipop mount, and 3, because it also supports that bend. So this is basically strengthening up this entire area here. Well, that's my thinking at least anyway. I do have a plan on chucking in another tube off the top of this bend at some point and going up to the roll cage up there somewhere to support that even further. So all in all, we should be structurally sound on that part. So the next step is going to be whipping all of that out, transferring that all onto some steel, cut that out, and we can start welding it in. However, we've got a bit of a side quest because our friend John has found and then stashed my little gift that I made for him a little while ago, and he obviously didn't think I was going to find that. So what we're going to do for him now is, rather than just hang it back up again because it's like a little game in the workshop, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to frame it for him. So we're going to cut this thing down and we're going to stick it in a picture frame for him and then hang out. Oh yes. So side quest, get that done and then we'll get back onto the car. And there we have it, folks. Didn't bother filming it because it's just me putting that thing in a bloody picture frame, but it is the gift that just keeps giving, isn't it? I'm so happy with myself. I'm not going to put this thing up tonight. What I'm going to do is, because I'm going away on holiday at the end of this week, I was hoping to get this done before I went on holiday, so I'll get a video out for you guys, but that ain't happening, so you have to wait till I'm back from holiday now. But I'll put that thing up on the night before I go away on holiday, and then I'll wait until I get a text message whilst I'm away on holiday to let me know that he's found it. But in the meantime, we need to get back on to more pressing issues, which is going to be getting all of this cut out of steel. Now this bit I need to mount up to that bit with a little 10mm gap between them, because I mounted that bit to my jig first and then started building away from it. So that bit with a 10mm gap to that bit, and then I'll cut all of that out in one piece, and then all these other pieces will just be cut out individually and all welded together after the fact. So get some metal out, start tracing all that out, and then start cutting. that is our first piece of this little situation done. I do need to go back in here and fettle this a little bit more just to close that gap up, but all in all, pretty happy, as much as I can be, with the way this is coming out. Obviously I've drilled my holes now, so my little locator pieces can go in, so they help locate the lollipop mount, which, there you see it just about. Annoyingly though, what I didn't do is forethink this little angle iron section I've got in my jig, because that actually stops me from being able to get this in place and bolt it in for when I'm welding these nuts on. So yeah, bit of an oversight on my part, but I'm sure we'll get past that. That's no real drama. And then yeah, looking around on the inside, I don't think that actually looks too bad, all things considered. Once it's all boxed in down the side here, I think that'll actually look quite presentable. So yeah, not overly fussed about it. Unfortunately though, I'm out of time because I need to go home and go to bed, because I've got a very early start in the morning to get on our holiday to Disneyland Paris with the kids. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pick you guys back up when I get back from holiday. But what I did say is that we're gonna hang this beauty up for John. So next step is gonna be trying to find a little home for that and see how long it takes him to realise it's there this time. And I don't really know where to put it this time around, to be fair. So far it's been on top of the dyno room, it's been on top of the toilet over there. I'm kind of thinking up on that wall, because then it's not jumping out at you. Yeah, right, up there it is. Let's go and get a ladder and screw this thing up. Yeah, buddy. Happy days, man. Right, let's go and have a look, see what that looks like from back here. Excuse the light, these damn things flicker because of my shutter speed on my camera. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a few days out of that before we realise that it's there. Fingers crossed. I'm sure I'll get a text message though when he's found it. Anyway, that's me signing off. I'll pick you guys back up when I'm back from holiday. Peace. We are officially back from holiday, people, and our little gift for John has now vanished. So where is it now, you might ask? Well, it appears the little bugger's playing me at my own game now, and he's gone and stashed it over on my side. All the way up there, look. So that is going to stay up there until he forgets about it, and then we're going to find a new spot for it, and hopefully it'll last longer than 3 days this time. But until then, that is going to be a wrap for this video. In the next one, we will in fact get this damn thing rolling, but we've got a couple of hurdles to overcome on that, so you'll see that in the next video. But for the minute, like, comment, subscribe, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.